So I'll continue with that, the praise of open source, because I developed something called UI5 Spreadsheet Importer. I'm Marian Zeis, an independent SAP developer. I like really open source, and that's why I've chosen to develop that in open source as well. What was the use case? I think like we can't unfortunately live without Excel. So what should we do? Try to integrate it in our process as best as possible. So a customer of mine had the challenge or the requirement to include Excel in one of the UI5 applications. And then it should be integrated into several other apps. So I created a component to use it pretty easy in other apps as well. And then from the very beginning, I saw the potential for open source project, and that's why I created it. Because the integration should be as easy as possible. So something like Fiori elements, those building blocks or smart controls, like out of the box, it should be as easy as possible for the developer to integrate that. And because the customer had S4 systems, old ECC systems, so the compatibility with should be as good as possible to use also with any back-end system. Should have been like a lot of extensibilities, like flexibility or customization to customize it to your need. And what is mostly overlooked, especially in open source products, also in SAP development as well, is documentation and testing. So that's why I try to create the documentation and testing from the very beginning. What I created was a little landing page to show the most important features and to have some links. For example, I have this very prominent button, try it now, that leads directly to a live demo. So if you want to have a look at that, you can straight go to the live demo. It's a cup backend and some sample Fiori element apps. For example, here's with OData v2, it's just I think orders. I think it's an official SAP sample. So if you open that, there's a little button, spreadsheet upload. That's the dialog that opens when you press the button. And then you can download a template. Well, it's fortunately in German, but there are many other languages available as well. And then I can just choose a template. I prepared that already and can just preview the data. It's really simple example here. And then upload. And automatically it's in the backend. So easy. The UX is also as easy as possible for the user. And another link is to the documentation. So here, if you press get started, there's a documentation. So the getting started guide is really comprehensive. Depends on the deployment model like BDP, and then some configurations. There are a lot of options you can use, and also a lot of events you can hook in your custom code here as well. Obviously, there's a GitHub repo. There's a dedicated GitHub org for that, where much more sample code is available, and it's obviously available on npm.js. So what are the use cases? You already saw Fiori elements. As I said, I wanted to make it as widely available as possible. So Fiori elements, OData v4, v2, Fiori freestyle v2, v4, standard apps, OpenUI5, and then on the platform like ECC, S4HANA on-premise, private, and public cloud, and BDP as well. So I have written a blog post about to integrate it into standard apps. So even because it's technically a, what's it called, UI5 component. And in standard apps, you can add custom components. So as an example here, I did it for the standard app banks. You don't really know what it actually did. I just tried to implement Excel upload and it worked. So you can actually add custom components to any substandard app and then integrate Excel upload. So how does it actually works? Like, what are the benefits and why can I use it everywhere? Like, if you press this button here, there are a few things available in this view. Most prominently, the table. And the table has a lot of information attached. Like, it's called OData binding. It's the metadata, like basically how the structure looks in the back end. So that's how a metadata document looks like. And as you can see, there's like this property names with ID, and there's like a metadata fields like created at, updated by. And this metadata, I already know what to upload. And now I can match it here to my Excel template. And if you see in the columns, in the brackets is basically the property name. And now I can match the Excel with the metadata. So let's go through that. So basically I open the dialog and then I upload the Excel with the property names in the brackets. And then I can extract the raw data with Sheet.js. So that's the only dependency I have. That's another open source library to extract or even edit Excel data. So I have here now the basically raw data from the Excel file. And then because I have all this metadata, so basically I know which field is what kind of data type, like date, string, integer. I can pass the data and make it a format to then post it back to the backend. Like for example here, it's pretty simple because there are two string fields, and I can create those two entities to create in the backend. I can validate the data, so some validations are already built in. You can also add your own validation in there, but I can validate, for example, those key fields. If they are not in the Excel file or mandatory fields, if they're not there, you cannot create the data in the backend, so they need to be there, and that's one of the validations I do. And then if everything looks good, you press upload, and then the post request goes to the backend via the OData binding. I refresh the table, and then you see the data as I just shown you before. So because I also just need that little binding, I don't really need a dedicated UI5 applications to show the data and then upload the data. So I actually can upload basically to any OData API. And for that, I created a sample applications which reads all the OData APIs in a SAP backend. That's a trial instance here. So I can just see all the OData APIs I have available. And here the GW sample basic, and then just choose a entity set, for example, the sales order set. And then I can just press Excel upload and upload the data to that OData API. So just because you can integrate it in your UI5 applications, you can basically use it for any OData API as long as I have the metadata for it. Now, what more features, like the main feature, backend agnostic, because everything happens in the front end. So it doesn't matter what the backend is. Is it SEGW? Is it CAP? Is it RAP? Doesn't matter. Everything happens in the front end. And then I use just the UI5 standard APIs. All long-term support, UI5 versions are supported. As I said, I want to support ECC. So currently everything from 1.71 is supported up to 2.0. So the newest version, which is not yet released, is already supported. Multi-language, thanks to LLM, I can support a lot of languages. Template generations, I didn't show that, but there was a button like generate template. So you can just define, okay, in that template, I want to show that columns. And when you download the template, only those columns are available. But you can even upload a dedicated Excel template file, and that file is then downloaded. So you can do whatever you want with the template generation. Then, as I shown, preview upload data, the validation of mandatory fields, and what you also can do is standalone usage. So if you don't have a OData service and actually just want to upload the data from Excel to the UI5 applications to have it available in the Freestyle application, you can use that as well. You can also don't let me create the data. You can actually do the creation on your own. So upload the data, and when the user press upload, you can just interject with your custom code and say, no, I want to create the data somehow differently. So you have a lot of, with the events, you have a lot of points to interject and do basically whatever you want with the data. Then, are my goals achieved? I think so, yes. Especially the easy integration. I have a negative example, like how complicated a Excel upload can be. Like here's a sample from a few weeks ago where somebody posted a blog post to integrate, and then it does back end and front end. So a lot of code, a lot of custom code in the front end, a lot of custom code in the back end. And now, how easy is it with my custom component? Like that's a freestyle sample. So you actually just change 2 files. I deployed the component to the S4 system, and now you just add it to the manifest, add it to the view, like this component container, and you're done. That's how you integrate Excel upload. Here's the button. You are ready to upload the Excel files. So integration more or less everywhere where UI5 is available. Deployment was a bit more difficult because especially there were some bugs in SAP as well. So that was basically the most difficult part. And then end-to-end tests, of course, you always want to have more tests. At least I had some tests. So I test everything, like I test all the V4 and V2 ODatas, and I test every UI5 version, long-term support version. Currently, there are 300, 500 weekly downloads in npm.js. So why open source? Because, as I said, I want to support a lot of situations, frameworks, UI5 versions, backends. I can't do that on my own. So I really wanted to have the open source code, and everyone can use it and basically try it in their scenario and then have feedback to me. So that was really, I would say, successful. Even SAP employees provided some feedback, and that really helped the creation of that component. So my experience was really positive, but it's not just writing the code and make it work. Everything around that is important, like actively requesting feedback. Then for me, it was important to create low entry barriers, like, as I said, easy installation, npm.js, good documentation to make it as easy as possible to use if you want to customize it, and easy debugging and the live demo to try it out instantly. Then for me personally, it was also really good because it was more or less a playground to try some things out, especially because I wanted to support the newest 2.0 UI5 version. So that's why I always was like on the bleeding edge. And the good thing about that, I was able to create some new stuff out of it. And for example, the latest UI5 contest here, I more or less presented my development environment I used to create this component. So it was really fun, especially because I could work with SAP together to improve UI5 and all the tools around it. For me, it's also important to a little bit of marketing. So the landing page I just show you was important. I created a lot of blog articles, not also just about the component, also about like everything around testing, development environment, best of UI5, best of CUP. is also pretty important to show it there. And then I think that the last point is really important. The strong community is crucial. So if you really support the community and everything around it, it really helps to create new things for everyone. Thank you.
Very impressive, Marian. Thank you very much for showing your project.
The presentation is, by the way, there.
By the way, you will also get all presentations, of course. We will inform you at the end how you will get them. Any questions for Marian? Oh, yes.
Hello. So this is a really cool project. I imagine it will be very useful for a lot of people. So we had a similar say a situation, and we had to build like a custom solution. And the biggest challenge that I say encountered was when we do mass uploads, how do you handle multiple rows? Would it be like one auditor call for one post for each row, or would it be some sort of like a batch?
It's a configuration parameter. So I have a parameter, it's called batch size. And then you can define how the batch looks like. Is the batch size 0, everything is in one batch. If the batch is size 1, for every row you get a call. And if it's batch size 1000, in one batch call are 1000 rows. So you can define it on your own how you want to send the data to the backend.
More questions, Connor?
So you mentioned you co-developed this with a customer. So how did you convince them to make it open source?
I just asked them. It wasn't really much of. I really didn't have to convince them. I really just said at the beginning, like, can I make this open source? It's not like I developed at a customer and the customer code was then open sourced. There was more or less everything private developed, and the customer solution was was different on the side. I just took like the knowledge I gained from the customer to my open source solution.
Thank you.
One famous Excel feature is that Excel deletes leading zeros from numbers of type string. How can you circumvent this feature?
I don't, because I just get, as I said, the raw data from Excel. If Excel deletes it, I can't do anything about it. The only thing it can do is I have an event, and then basically the upload event. So you get the past data, and then you can check the field and add the zeros yourself. Just can make sure the data is correct to your backend. Because I can't know it. And yeah, like a few people ask, like, okay, yeah, you can create like can move data from one system to the other, like download it here and upload it here. Excel is not the best one. Like you can upload CSV as well. Maybe do that, because then the data is exactly the same as you have in the CSV. So you can, it's called spreadsheet import, but you can upload CSV there as well and import that as well. So that would be more appropriate to actually move data from one system to the other.
Maybe you need some new technology integration requirements.
It's not the solution for everything. Sometimes people use Excel for everything, but it's just like, if you have Excel, if your process has Excel, then you can use that one. It's not like create a new process around that component. It's for existing processes. Okay.
Last call for questions, because otherwise we start with the last presentation. No, thank you very much, Marian. Thank you.
Thank